It's time once again for another Two Women Talking. This is a very special Two Women Talking. It's two women talking with a man, not just any man. We've got me, Tomboy, Leanna Kersner. It's Song W. Erickson, Girly Girl, and it's Bobby Calloway. You notice I said it's Bobby Calloway, not and Bobby Calloway, because we are not doing the Ken thing at the beginning of the Barbie movie. Bobby, welcome. You are the first dude on Two Women Talking, the first official dude other than me. How does it feel?
No, it is. I would be lying if I said I didn't, occasionally daydream about this, but I'm still. I tend to internalize a lot, so my delayed reaction will probably come out eventually. But
So about an hour and a half in, you'll suddenly go squeak.
yeah, I'll just be start doing backflips.
Okay, Song, anything you want to say or ask Bobby to start us off?
Not really.
Uh,
Just to say welcome.
all
Oh,
right. So we are talking Barbie, but as is typical in Two Women Talking, we will likely not stay on Barbie. We will likely range into other media for women because I do think the Barbie movie exists on a continuum. I've seen it twice now. I saw it,
really?
yeah. I saw it again last night because it was my friend's birthday, and we tried to get walk-up tickets to Hamilton, but they were sold out. So I'm like, "Have you seen Barbie?" And she said, "No." And this is a friend who regularly wears pink, and it's like, "You have to see Barbie." So the first time I saw it with my mother and a friend of mine who he's a straight guy, but years ago he cosplayed tour guide Barbie at a convention, and he's very knowledgeable about Barbie. He collects some of the dolls because he's interested in sort of Americana kitsch. And so I saw the movie with him the first time, and then I saw last night. It was just last night with my friend who's a youth outreach worker, and so she was for the first 15 minutes. She's like, "What is going on?" And then she slowly kind of started to get it. Um, to me, and I'll throw this over to you because I know you have thoughts, and Bobby, I know you have thoughts and notes. Um, but to me, the movie is a Rorschach blot, and it's sort of part defense of Barbie, part homage, part farce, but then there is definitely a ribbon of satire running through it. And so there will be parts in this movie that kind of kick you in the, I'll say, guts. And I think that that is the thing that all the absolute lavish praise, but also, Ben Shapiro, Bill Maher, and such are having this very strong, visceral reaction to it. Song, what was your top line takeaway from the Barbie movie?
Ben Shapiro is a moron.
Well, okay, we knew that.
Well, yes, but like that was my first thought as it ended. And I wasn't even sure I was gonna see this one because I don't usually like meta humor.
Yeah,
But I saw the responses to the movie and all the people who were either loving it or hating on it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to see this myself.
right.
Like, I need to be able to form my own opinion on this. And so I finally saw it the other day. And I hesitate to say I like it because it is commentary. And there is a lot to it. And there's moments where I'm like, I have moments where it's like, okay, I didn't specifically like how they handled that, and other things where I'm like, that's not what I would choose as a writer, and also that's not this how I would want the story to go. But I also acknowledge that's the right choice for the story.
Right. Okay.
So, a bit of a catch 22 there, but overall, I did enjoy it. And the big thing is, they flipped the script on social commentary with the way they set up the Barbies and the Kens. And it's like, if you don't see that, if you can't take a step back from that, I think it shows a huge lack of compassion and empathy. So there's my opening salvo.
All right, Bobby, we wanted a guy to come on this because I talk all the time about, being raised as a woman, being in that soup. And I mean, there are some pretty deep cuts against Kendom in that movie. So I wanted that point of view represented. What did you think about it? Top line.
I think I'm gonna have to actually watch it again because I really didn't like it when I first saw it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think I thought the first act was really good. I was like, okay,
The
yeah, this
Barbie
is
Land
good.
stuff.
Yeah, and then I kind of I I hesitate to say this, but one of those gut punches really got me, and I was kind of because I went in kind of very blind, kind of not knowing what it would be about. I had like an awareness of it's going to be commentary, it's going to be saying this or that or whatever, but I didn't see that many trailers or kind of pay too much attention to
Okay.
that because I wanted to go in completely blind, and I kind of was like, oh, okay, that's what it's going to be about. Yeah,
And
the
what did you see it being about?
um yeah, I guess I didn't know what the expectations would be. I guess I was kind of expecting, a sort of modern camp sort of thing, which there is that to it as well.
That is how they advertised it.
Yeah,
So
and
Definitely.
so I just want to say this really quick because I saw people who have been complaining, oh, they advertised it as a happy, fun Barbie movie. And I'm like, right smack dab in the middle of most of the trailers is the do any of you ever think about dying
Yeah.
line? And so it's like I knew from that was one of those lines where I'm like, this probably won't be for me because I don't want that kind of commentary
Right.
usually.
Yeah.
Like,
And sorry, go ahead, Song.
Bobby, I totally agree with you on the first act because I saw it with my mom. And afterwards, she said, at the first part when they were in Barbie Land, I'd look over at you and you were so happy and enjoying it. Then they got to the real world and your expression just dropped. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right.
I mean,
yeah,
sorry, go ahead, Bobby.
oh yeah, I just realized that might actually be my first time hearing a Lizzo song, and what a first impression, right? I mean,
the soundtrack was fascinating to me.
yeah, I mean, I really loved Kate McKinnon's work in there. I remember we were talking about this, Leanna, and
It's the first thing I've seen her in that I've
wasn't
actively liked
Ghostbusters.
her in. No, I've seen her in a bunch of stuff. She's Kate McKinnon in every movie she's in. And I confuse her with who's the other one? The one who was in Wonder Woman 2.
Oh, Kristen
Kristen
Wiig.
Wiig.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Kate McKinnon usually way overdoes it. She's doing that very shticky, I am being funny comedy. And she was reined in. There were a few times that she was mugging and taking away from the primary speaker in a scene, but most of the time she was doing her job.
And I thought it was a very smart casting choice where I mean, if you see her out of character, because she tends to sort of, drab down, I guess, to kind of like playing Hillary Clinton or that character in Ghostbusters. Like you see her out of character, she's a very beautiful lady. She is stunning. She is supermodel gorgeous.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really interesting sort of meta casting choice to cast an actress who out of character looks that way. And then because the Barbies are meant to be more attractive and kind of this beautiful ideal, and she's sort of the right choice to play the weird Barbie, I guess.
Yeah, I
If that
mean
makes any sense at all.
that weird Barbie thing, that was one of the things I needed adjustment. Because weird Barbies were way more terrifying than that weird Barbie. I mean, everybody's seen the Psycho there. And it was interesting that juxtaposed with the 2001 A Space Odyssey opening with the little girls smashing the dolls. I imagine that reads very differently if you don't know what that's an homage to. But also, I thought,
yeah, I haven't seen 2001, but I kind
okay.
of I knew of I think someone told me
knew
that.
of
Yeah.
the Dawn of Man opening sequence with
Yeah,
the
I think
guys
so
in monkey
because
suits. Yeah.
yeah, because Recess did a parody of that. So
Yeah. I mean, it was already the stuff of parody when I became aware of it in the 80s. So that was a choice, but I also think that that indicated who the movie was primarily for. I mean, I do think the target audience for that film was America Ferrera's I think her character's name was Gloria.
yeah.
Um and but yeah, that opening Barbie Land, between the weird Barbie and the Barbie Land, the whole uncanny valley of the shower and the milk carton and everything like that, that hit me because as a kid, I found all that stuff really weird and uncanny valley.
Me
And
too.
so it's so weird to remember being like 7 years old and being weirded out by girl toys. But all those little accessories for Barbie, when they open up the fridge and it's just a sticker,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff. I remember comparing it to the boys' toys of the time, and Snake Mountain with all like the little weapon sets, and the vehicles, and Castle Grayskull, and it had all these accessories and all these little details and drawbridges that went up and down. And then there was Barbie's Dream Home, which was this pink hunk of plastic with stickers. And
And like growing up, I only had one Barbie with one dress. So like I never had multiple that I could play with. I never had a house or any of the cool sets for her. But
I'm trying to remember. I never had a Barbie. I had a Barbie friend. Keep talking, Soggle. I try to
yeah.
look up the name
Well,
for it.
something I'm gonna add really quick is so my stepfather's mother, in her house, which we would visit every few months, they had original dolls from the 60s and 70s
Ooh.
and a ton of the wardrobe. But like it was all again 60s and 70s outfits. And I just remember being 5 to 10 when we would visit, just going through all the clothes. And it's like looking back, that's really telling of how I grew up. I would just like make piles of the ones I liked and make outfits, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of what I wish I'd been able to do with my own Barbie, when if I
Okay.
had more clothes. But at the same time, it's like any clothes I could have gotten at that point would have been the cheap 90s stuff, whereas the stuff in the 60s, I can tell you, it was much higher quality. That stuff was really nice and it held up. And
Yeah.
like even the original box Barbie came in, which was like, it was cardboard covered in that kind of soft sheet plastic,
Mm-hmm.
and like you would fold the lid over and it had a snap on the side.
That's right. Oh, that's some of the carrying cases
Mm-hmm.
had that. I
Yeah.
found the name of the Barbie I had. I'll show it to you guys. It was, see, my mother would always encourage the exceptions to the things I hated. So it was 1983, and it was called Loving You Barbie. And I'll do it here. You can see it looks like the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland, and so I liked it. And that was and then it came with a stamper and stickers, and the stamper was cool because this is me as a kid. That was the like demon summoning ritual that the stamp became the like occult circle. That there were these things called oodles at the time too. Does anybody remember oodles? You guys are
No.
probably too young. Let
Bobby, how old are you, really quick? I've been meaning to ask.
We'll leave that a mystery for now. I'm an actor. I have to keep the age hidden.
there we go. You're both younger than me. So
Okay.
I'm trying to find it. Oodles were one of the most terrifying toy phenomenons of the 80s. They were weird, naked plastic babies.
Oh god.
And they were like, there was another toy line, I think they were called Muscles, but they were like wrestlers that were like
Oh, okay.
monochrome plastic wrestlers. But the oodles were
Oh God,
weird.
I found them.
Yeah, I'm pulling up a picture for them to show you guys. It's funny. A lot of the Pinterest accounts are like, you must sign in to view because they're fucking creepy. Here,
They
these are
are.
they're weird little, they remind me of the adipose from Doctor Who.
That's an insult to the adipose.
Well, yeah, because adipose are sort of deliberate, creepy, but they tried to have black oodles and it just looks horribly wrong. Oh wow, we got a lot of Garbage Pail Kids. I loved Garbage Pail Kids, but oodles, like you can see the black ones, the African American oodles, just make it all that weirder. But the oodles became like the armies of the damned in the playset. And Gem and the holograms, though, I still have one of my, is she back there? Oh, she's back there. Jazz from Gem and the hologram. She was my favorite. She had black hair with like silver streaks in it. And
was she in the Misfits?
She was a late add-on to the Misfits.
Okay.
So she was the misfit that's sort of like, you all suck, but you can get me where I need to go. Which she had this cool British accent, and she was just so neat looking.
Oh, Jetta, was she?
Was Jetta? That you're right, Jetta.
Sorry, I've only seen 3 episodes of it. You know,
but you know who I'm talking about. But she played
Yeah.
the saxophone, and I played the saxophone, and so it was cool. But they had these doll stands that you used for their instruments, and those were space hovercraft that can, you know, I mean, the oodles were coming out of the demon summoning ring while Loving You Barbie was casting, you know, this is what I did with toys. And the interesting thing is that weird Barbie in the Barbie movie kind of looks like a gem doll.
Yeah.
Yes, she does.
Yeah. And I
maybe
mean,
that was intentional.
It definitely looked like they were trying to do homages to Barbie and the Rockers with but they couldn't fit it in.
I also saw someone point out that when Barbie is at the school and first meets Sasha, Sasha and her friends all seem to line up with 4 of the original Bratz dolls.
They do look like Bratz dolls.
Yeah.
I noticed that the second time. This is something I caught the second time that I didn't catch the first time. Do you notice Sasha's a girl bully?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, she's the mean girl.
She's the mean girl.
Yes.
Yeah, she kind of she triggered me a bit, you know?
She is mean too.
Yeah.
Like it's not just kind of snippy mean. She's nasty.
And that I thought was, did you catch that, Bobby? The line where first of all Barbie gets warned approaching her, and then
I saw that. And that was kind of something that was one of my biggest points of contention with it. I was like kind of as we were getting through the third act, I'm just like, when is this demon child going to get told off? When is she going to get put in her place?
And she never does.
She doesn't. It's and that's why I think the whole thing because the thing I thought was interesting is, despite all the social commentary, and I'm interested to what you guys think about this, because I'm not sure what I think about this. With all the social commentary going on, it's like they had a fail-safe in place that ultimately this Barbie is Gloria's Barbie. So she's not saying anything about women or the depictions of women. She's manifesting Gloria's like
thoughts
hopes, fears, and dreams. Thoughts of death, cellulite.
Sorry, that lyric is stuck in my head now.
Yeah, from
why you look so stressed? Could it be those irresistible thoughts of death?
that opening was clever, but it really did skew based on Gloria, which is why I think it's ultimately a mom movie.
Which definitely explains like the music choices.
The very rooted in the 90s thing.
Like the song, the traveling song, which is, or the song they play when they're driving in the pink car, which is like, it's a song I kind of know.
I don't know that song.
I don't know that song either.
Okay, the only reason I know it is because there was a point about 10 years ago, I was working in a Thai restaurant.
Okay.
And they played these coffee shop covers.
Okay.
on this Sirius radio station, and that was one of the songs that they either played or covered. And it's like,
Okay.
I just remember I went to the doctor, I went to the I looked to the children, and there's a line in there about going to someone looking for the answers to life, and the guy's got a photo of Rasputin on his wall.
Okay.
Which
Oh,
sounds very 90s.
it's
Yeah.
called Closer to Fine by the Indigo Girls.
Oh,
Oh.
interesting.
Yeah, that's
'Cause
the
we're-
name of, yeah.
They came up in a music review I was watching recently, because weren't they the ones who kind of established the look and style of lesbian music?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was definitely like safe edgy before that was a thing. A folk rock group out of Georgia. Started in the 80s, but they were definitely, I mean, I was into grunge and dancehall reggae in the 90s, so that was they sort of were part of that 10,000 Maniacs, Tracy Chapman, Susan Vega wave in
Yeah, that sounds about
yeah,
right.
yeah. And
Well, here's
so
a fun fact for you. The original Scream, Rose McGowan's character Tatum was meant to be she was meant to be a sort of, you know, that kind of tomboy, and like the set dressers put like posters of the Indigo Girls in her
That's
room,
right.
but Rose McGowan decided that no, she has to be cuter and more feminine. So she says that she actually literally just ripped the posters off the wall and was just like put up, you know, posters of like kittens and cute things instead, because she wanted, spoiler, she dies. Spoilers for the
Right.
30-year-old movie. She wanted her death to be sadder.
I just want to say I was pretty much counting down to how long until there was a Charmed reference.
Yeah, well, that
in
was
here.
technically a Scream reference, but it was Rose McGowan, so it was charm adjacent.
I actually
Yes.
saw Scream before I saw it. I wasn't alive when it came out. What was I? Never mind. Yeah, I mean,
There's my answer.
yeah, I saw it. Yeah, I mean, I saw it before I saw Charmed. Yeah, so I knew Rose McGowan as the girl from Scream before I knew her as Paige from Charmed.
My God, not alive when Scream came out. Yeah, I was I was graduating high school when the movie came out.
Yeah, I was gonna, you know, he mentioned spoilers for Scream. I was gonna say there will be spoilers for Barbie here.
There will be. And
think...
I honestly think, having seen it twice, it might actually be a little better if you know what you're getting going in.
Absolutely.
Possibly, yeah.
Because there's so much going on. I did feel, and this is going real deep dive, we're sort of skipping over thematic stuff, but we're just going with the flow. It's two women talking. It's all over the place. I did feel like there was an insecurity visible in the whole film. The pacing was very, this much must happen now. And
yeah, that's a Greta Gerwig flaw.
Is it? Okay, because
I'm just going off because I haven't seen Lady Bird, and that's the one everyone loves, but her version of Little Women was kind of, it overstayed its welcome, and it's kind of very telling because I believe it had the exact same screenwriter as Gillian Armstrong's 1994 version, and that one was long, but it was paced much better and kind of knew when to wrap things up. But
okay, I mean, it's an hour and 54 minutes. It's not.
Really? It felt so much longer to me.
That's all that movie is. It's certainly not a Christopher Nolan or Zack Snyder film. But it felt
way longer to me, yeah.
It was so jam-packed.
Yeah, there's so much going on.
That whole sequence where they're in the Mattel office and everybody's just running around screaming. That part felt really forced even though this isn't a kids movie, we know people are going to take their kids to see it, so let's give that, you know, illumination sequence so that we seem cool.
I honestly, it reminded me of Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
And the running through the hallway with the doors that make no sense. And it went on a little long. I did think it was funny.
Oh, it was too. It just very much felt like somebody, they either read through the script or did a cut of the film and was like, there's been too much thinky talking, Barbie crying, we need something funny and light. I was very taken aback by how much of the film she spends crying and passive and watching other people talk. That if she had been a secondary character in a movie, people would have freaked out by that. And that's one of the things.
And I just want to say, sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
I'll let you finish.
Well, that's one of the things that I want to talk about in a greater context.
Mm-hmm.
Because what people say they want from entertainment by women for women,
Mm-hmm.
and what people reward or what people go to see in entertainment by women for women are not the same. I mean, you can point to the success of The Handmaid's Tale or something like, oh God, The Good Wife.
I would rather not.
Well, yeah, we say that we want things of strong female characters, but what we reward is stories where so-called strong or interesting women are torn down because strength is about how much you can endure, not an ability to get things done. And I was definitely watching Barbie, those parts of Barbie the second time, in the lens of something like The Handmaid's Tale, which is, The Handmaid's Tale was always the story of a dystopia told from the point of view of a damsel in distress. And it doesn't get seen as that. The book, I don't know about the show, because the book was so difficult to read. I threw it across the room 4 times while I was reading it. And I only threw Harry Potter across the room. Well, I read through Harry Potter book 7 across the room only 3 times while reading it. So that's how difficult.
You're gonna have to tell me which times. I know one of them. I don't know the other 2.
2 of them were, it was, you don't kill both the childhood pet and the imaginary friend.
Oh, okay.
So whichever one was second, I was just, fuck you, J.K. Rowling.
Hedwig was first, Dobby was second.
Okay, so yeah, I remember it was Dobby. It's like, this is sick. Like, I remember being, I don't remember exactly when I got into the Chronicles of Narnia, but it was somewhere 10, 12 years old. And I devoured them, right?
Yeah.
It was one summer, all the books. And so people aren't going to read Harry Potter 1 book a year the way they did when it first came out. They're going to read it in a glut. And those first 3 books aren't for the same age group as the last 4.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems that we're so... The interesting thing about Barbie is it's not a movie about women. It's a movie about, they actually say one line. I think it's Gloria that says, you know, if we can't, I'm paraphrasing, it was that speech that went viral, you know, where it's literally impossible to be a woman. And I admit I braced my loins because she said literally, but it was actually a correct use of literally in this case. But you know, it's, if we can't figure it, if we put all these, you know, pressures on
conflicting pressures
onto a doll that just represents women, how do we have any hope as actual women? And I thought that was almost the you know, the cipher key to the whole movie, that this is not a movie about women. This is a movie about a doll that represents women. And I think that's an important distinction, right? Because as they showed with one of the highlights, don't let me speak for you guys, but I will ask this as a question instead of a statement. This is how we do it. Will be Sam Captain America, not Steve Captain America. The Ruth Handler bits, the Barbie creator bits with Rhea Perlman, highlight of the film, yes, no?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought they were nice. You know, it was nice to see her, and because I only know her as you know, the mean mother from Matilda, so it's nice to see her as something
you
softer.
Never saw Cheers?
I think I've seen, like, you know, like 2 or 3 episodes.
See,
Okay, I will say the context of her as Carla from Cheers at first was weird for me because that's where I know her from. So like when she first shows up and she's this nice grandmother, I'm like, this is weird. But then she comes out at the end and it's like, oh yeah, I've got the tax evasion stuff. I'm like, oh yes, yeah, no, you're perfect.
Carla was a perpetually pregnant barmaid. And
Was she?
yes.
Mm-hmm.
I just assumed she had anger problems.
No, it was the whole thing of she was Catholic, and so her and her husband didn't practice birth control, and so she had multiple kids.
And the worst part was like she already had a ton when the show started, and she and her husband were split up, and he was with this true blonde bimbo who was like 20 years old. And she still kept getting pregnant by him.
Cheers, in retrospect, was very cynical.
Very.
But again, using her, I mean, I do think she was the right person to play the part. She did bring us sort of somebody who's done some living and yet didn't lose her hope kind of feeling. And
she has a kind of street wisdom, which I think makes sense for a woman who was in the corporate world at that time.
Yeah. And was she ever really in the corporate world? I mean, they say we had a woman founder, but there were 3 founders to Mattel, and she was only one of them. The other was her husband, and then one other guy. So that was a bit of a fudge, but I did think, and Bobby, I'm curious for another point of view on this, what you thought, because you're a really good script writer, and you're good at those sort of linchpin conversations in your script. And I did think that as much as people see the Gloria speech as the heart of the film, I actually think it was Ruth Handler's stated intentions for Barbie.
That's basically what I got as well. I did not like the speech. I rolled my eyes as soon as it happened.
How heavy-handed it was?
Yeah, again, that's another of Greta Gerwig's flaws as a director, because her version of Little Women, it had so many of those speeches, and the famous one wasn't actually in the script. It was it's Amy kind of just goes on a rant about how difficult it is to be a woman in the time. And I think that was Meryl Streep's idea, where she sort of says, oh, the audience needs to understand a woman's powerlessness in this era. And nowadays I think about it as like, you go to all that effort to, remind people of how powerless women were, putting them in the time period, and yet you couldn't get the fucking costumes right.
Oh God, they didn't even have a single bonnet in that movie.
And song is off.
And one of the girls wears Ugg boots.
Bobby, you did that on purpose, didn't you?
I mean,
oh God, every time Little Women came up, I was biting my tongue, like, don't mention the costumes, don't mention the costumes. And then he did it. He just took the lid right off. Oh my God, they fucked up those costumes.
I don't know. It's just, we need to... Greta Gerwig can be a bit of a sacred cow among her fan bases, so we can discuss her flaws critically.
I'm like,
okay, why we had Bobby come on to him and talking,
and like, okay, so part of why I always hated Little Women is because even as a child, I hated the expectations that were put on those girls.
It's such a depressing story too.
And Louisa May Alcott, part of it is coming. Louisa May Alcott was the one who wrote the book, for those who don't know. So a lot of it was from her childhood, because her father was extremely strict and regimented about how his daughters were expected to live their lives. They had these strict schedules, these things they could do and couldn't do, and a lot of it came because they were very religious. But there's a scene in the book. Yeah, no, Bobby set me off now.
Yep, I knew this was
Congratulations.
good. I felt the rumbling.
So And there's a scene in the book where their father comes. So the book is set during the Civil War, and the father is away, and the women are running the house, and the mother is the one running everything. So to hear that the movie went for this whole, the powerlessness of women at that time is so ironic. But there's a scene where their father comes home, and it's after the youngest daughter dies. And he looks at Jo, who has always been the wild child, and she's the writer, and she's boisterous and tomboyish, and she's the most alive in a way. And she's drawn and pale because she's in mourning for her sister, and she's depressed, and the war has worn all of them down. And he says, "Oh, I'm so glad to see you looking more ladylike and quieter." And I'm like, she's fucking depressed and in mourning. How fucking dare you? Like, the only way you're happy with your daughter is when she's broken. Great.
Yeah, that bit gets left out of a lot of adaptations.
Yeah.
Although, so I'm gonna say something fun about Little Women for a second, and this actually ties into comic books, and it's a totally random thing. Okay, so 1994 Little Women. Amy is played by a young Kirsten Dunst.
That's right.
Laurie,
she's the best Amy, definitely.
Laurie is played by Christian Bale.
Oh,
so Kirsten Dunst, as we all know, went on to play the worst iteration of Mary Jane Watson. Christian Bale went on to play Batman. So in the comics, back in the 70s, in the Spider-Man comics, when Peter and MJ got married, Peter and MJ were both kind of having cold feet the night before. And MJ had a kind of ex-boyfriend named Bruce, who had a lot of money, who kept trying to tell her, "Come stay at my place in France. Don't get married. Don't ruin your life." And she actually goes off with him the night before the wedding just to talk and hang out.
Yeah.
And so since his name is Bruce and he has money, people have joked, "Oh, she spent the night before marrying Spider-Man with Batman." And then we got the actors who played Batman and Mary Jane, who were married in 94 Little Women.
The creative mythography community is probably screaming right now.
I always enjoyed the detail, and since I don't like Little Women and I don't like Kirsten Dunst and I'm meh on Christopher Nolan Batman, I don't know, I can laugh at that.
Yeah. And in Little Women, don't they fall in love in France?
Yes
they do. And for the record, Bruce ended up giving Mary Jane the tickets to France, which is how she and Peter got to have their French honeymoon.
It's funny because I remember people were always like, "Well, this is about a smart girl, you should like it." And I was always, I'd read these books, and there would always be some guy who was very, very devoted to the main character, even though she was weird and sparky and all that stuff. And that to me always rang false, because I've talked a lot how boys just did not like me growing up. And so I always felt like these books were still reinforcing that if you are a proper girl, boys will like you. And at the end of the day, even in Little Women, even in, Anne of Green Gables, even in these spirited women stories, it was all about, oh, well, she's good because this guy follows her around like a little lost puppy, even though she doesn't terribly treat him well.
And that's another thing, is because, Laurie is friends with Jo and he initially proposes to her, but she turns him down.
Yeah.
And he's very young at the time. I think he's like 17. Yeah. They both are. But when he grows up a little and he goes to France, and then he runs into her sister, Amy, who is the pretty one, the pink one, the proper one.
Yeah.
And now he's a little older. He understands what he should really want. He's not in his childhood rebellion anymore. So he marries the pretty pink one.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I like Pretty Pink. Madeline actually isn't in volume 1 of Calidus Chronicles. One of my characters is like pretty pink. Someone said, I'm amazed her hair isn't actually pink because she's so pink. But
yeah,
so it's
okay.
like I have characters like that. I like that, but it's still it still bugs me that, you know, that did happen in Little Women.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the things Barbie really like dissects with the pins, with the butterfly wings, the whole and Ken thing. I mean, you could argue that Ken actually has a greater emotional arc in the film than Barbie does.
He really
They
does.
both learn, but Ken, it breaks that whole thing of have a guy, you know, even in superhero comics, you know, the whole Clark Kent Peter Parker thing, that if the guy sticks it out long enough, the girl will eventually see his value. That's not what happens in the Barbie movie. And both my mother, when I saw it the first time, and my friend who saw it the second time, both came out and said she was really mean to Ken. I felt really bad for Ken. And I want to discuss this because there's a bunch of ways to interpret that, and I want to know what you guys think. So who does
I also have things to say on that, so I'll start.
Well, okay, let's let Bobby say first because it is about Ken. So
yes. No, ladies first. Let's
no, we're not gonna,
no. I'm gonna go
Barbie
off
ending. We're not gonna do the matriarchy with only one judge.
No, just
you just want to hear song go off again, don't you?
You know, okay. I've read that there's a lot of people have found a sort of like asexual or aromantic coding in Barbie, the character specifically that Margot Robbie plays. So I guess I didn't, you know, think she was that mean to him. You know, I just kind of saw it as she was just naive and just kind of didn't realize, you know, because the whole programming thing, you know, it's like he's programmed to like her, but it's a sort of, you know, if you notice, like a lot of the Barbies and the Kens aren't really interested in each other. And I just realized, oh, that's the whole kind of, you know, it's kind of a commentary on how Disney princesses these days don't have love interests. You know, it's the women empowerment message that we're being pushed with, that how a woman doesn't need a man. So it's sort of like how that's why she doesn't have the interest in him. And it's sort of like showing the perspective of, you know, what it might be like for the guy who, you know, in that situation.
That's interesting because I saw it as all the Barbie Ken stuff was a 6-year-old's view of heteronormativity. They don't really know what goes on. They just know that this is what they see boys and stuff want to do, but they're still in the boys are icky phase because they don't like anything we like. And so to me, I took it as almost the stunted, arrested part of Gloria that was so dissatisfied in her life that she was just switched off that way. I mean, there's definitely that thing with the dad badly trying to learn Spanish, and I found that a bit of a clunky point because
that is the only part that I would actually consider to be anti-man.
The dad?
because that just like, I get what they were trying to say, but also like I'm so tired of this cliche of, oh, you've got the hardworking woman and she's got the slob of a husband. And granted, this guy wasn't a slob, but it still had that, oh, he's the second child.
In Yiddish, we'd call him a nebbish.
Am I allowed to use that word?
What, nebbish?
Yes.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to use Yiddish words?
Yeah, it's that. Most Yiddish words are what they sound like they are. So he's a nice guy, but there's nothing terribly exciting or cool or anything. He's trying real hard but doesn't quite get it. And that was, I want to get back to your thoughts on Ken's song, but that was the thing where I was like, the daughter is like 13. Why is he just learning Spanish now?
That was my thought too. Like they were trying to say something, and you know, we don't know what that last I don't know what that last line he said in Spanish, but you know,
The revolutionary phrase.
I guess Gloria was like, yeah, no, don't say that. And the daughter is like, that's appropriation, Dad. And I'm like, hang on, speaking the language is appropriation?
Well, the daughter's a little
She
Demon?
she is very online activist. That's what I got.
And I think they were making a point with that. But let's stay on Ken because I love Ken.
Yes.
Ken was me in that movie. So Song, the whole Ken arc. I know that you said you get that it's the right ending, but you don't like it. So
well, I mean, we know me, I'm the romantic. So it's like, for me, obviously, my first impulse would be, well, I want a happy ending for them together. Because, you know, Bobby mentioned Disney princesses are not allowed to have love interests anymore. Fuck that. Just give me a nice romance.
Song's fired up today. The Little Women read Uncork Song.
So
it's okay.
Here's the thing. It's, you know, I saw how, you know, you mentioned the idea that if the guys just keep putting in effort, eventually the girl will come around. And it reminded me of something I've seen. There are so many guys who they really think that like going on nice dates and bringing flowers and stuff like this, it's a cheat code.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as they're putting that cheat code in, eventually the girl will give them something, whether it's going out, whether it's sex, whether it's just staying with them in a relationship. And it felt like that. And I don't think it was supposed to be a commentary on how some red pill guys view dating. But like, you know, I came back from the movie and I'm just thinking about it and I'm like, okay, this is making me think of Taylor Swift and red pill guys.
Oh, we're hitting all the song buttons.
Whoops. And it's like that's what was interesting about the movie is it did hit so many of these points. And there is this idea of, you know, just stick it out and put in the cheat codes, basically put in the tokens. Eventually you'll get what you want, but that doesn't address compatibility. And it certainly doesn't address that those are not things to build a relationship on. You know, Liana has talked about how you get guys who are like, oh, well, how do I meet women? Well, the trick is you can't be trying to meet women. Because if you're
a bad answer,
because if you're going somewhere just to meet women, well, women can kind of sense that, and it's gonna be a huge turnoff. Because and I cannot say this enough. Just live your life and do things that interest you. And if you don't know what interests you, then go out and try things and find what does. And then when you have interests, you'll start aligning with people who have similar interests. And then you have something to go off when you meet someone. And if a woman can sense that you are here out of genuine interest in something and not just because you're putting on a show to try and find a girl, she'll be more likely to talk to you and establish a relationship like that.